Hey, welcome investors to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. Today we're going to dig into the Snowflake IPO a little bit. I think there's a lot of misleading headlines that Snowflake is, after Google and Amazon and Microsoft and their cloud business. And some of this just isn't true. So I want to share some of the research that I've done on Snowflake and really what is the sweet spot for their service offering and how far can this grow. Reminder as always that my stock picks and projections are just my opinion for your entertainment. Please talk to a financial professional before taking on the risks of investing. But if you do like stock market analysis and going deep on stocks like Snowflake, then please make sure to subscribe to the 40 Finance channel. I post new videos 3 to 4 times a week, so make sure you subscribe so you can see all the latest updates. And reminder, if you join my email list, you can get your free copy of my 15-minute stock analysis guide. That link's in the description. Lots of great stuff planned for the email newsletter coming forward. Okay, so obviously Snowflake dominated the headlines yesterday when they came out and their stock price rose to whatever it was, $275, $265. And there's just so much talk about Snowflake. And the fact of the matter is that it's pretty specialized service for cloud data. And even though you hear a lot of big names like Warren Buffett being interested and some of the other celebrities, this is definitely not the next Amazon or Microsoft. So when you see headlines like the one over here that says Snowflake taking on Amazon and Microsoft cloud business, I would say that that's sort of misleading. And in just a couple minutes, I'll show you where Snowflake actually sits in the primary architecture of most people's cloud setup. All right, first step though is to just quickly go through how Snowflake is identifying their services. This is from their IPO S1, and I'm going to buzz through this, so don't be intimidated by the text. We'll start at the top where we have it highlighted. We are pioneering data cloud, an ecosystem where Snowflake customers, partners, and data providers can break down data silos and derive value from rapidly growing sets in secure, governed, and compliant ways. Our platform enables customers to consolidate data into a single source of truth to drive meaningful business and build data-driven applications and share data. That thought there is continued in the third paragraph. Our platform enables customers to unify and query data, support a wide variety of causes. It also provides frictionless and governed data access so users can share their data securely inside and outside of their organization. Next paragraph just talks about the layers, and there at the bottom they give examples for leadership. CIOs choose us to help migrate raw data to the public cloud and transform it into analytics-ready data. CMOs choose us to create 360-degree customer views. Business leaders choose us to distill insights from their most important business metrics. And data scientists choose us to simplify data transformation. You get the picture there. Finally, at the bottom, this part is important because it gets into their scale. The more customers that adopt our platform, the more data can be exchanged with other Snowflake customers, partners, and data providers, enhancing the value of our platform for all users. So that last sentence that I highlighted is actually pretty important because they're telling you basically they need more customers to make their service better. So it's definitely important that Snowflake becomes popular, so to speak, within the IT landscape so that they can continue to build off of themselves to become the native language for the services they offer as far as transforming data and providing an analytics service that can take different types of raw data and merge it together for analytics. Okay, stock price today sits at $220. There's not a whole lot to see here because we don't have any historical valuations. The high reached 266, I believe, yesterday, and here this morning it's already come down a little bit. One company I can compare with easily to Snow is Cloudera. They both do similar things, and you see from a valuation perspective, Snow is trading at least price to sales of 135.16, where Cloudera, which premiered in, I think, 2017, their price to sales is 3.91. So there's no doubt about it. Snowflake is definitely trading on the high range. Now, the reason for that is the assumption is you have plus 100% sales growth every year. So it wouldn't conceivably take them very long to catch up to Cloudera on that pace, not to mention if the stock continues to sort of dip back to reality, you can make up the difference between those 2 points fairly quickly. All right, so just out of my own curiosity, I dug deep in the internet and tried to get a feel for where does Snowflake compare and how do they compete with the big boys. So I have a couple of reviews and customer insights that we can breeze through. First one on the board here is from a software review company, G2. And the first thing that's important to anyone who's learning about Snowflake is understanding exactly where they compete with Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. So you see across the top, the actual products that Snowflake competes with is the Google BigQuery product, Amazon Redshift, and Azure Data Lakes. That is significantly different than competing with Google Cloud, Azure as a whole, or AWS as a whole. We're talking about a service or platform function of much bigger worlds that Snowflake is going after here from a competition standpoint. Now, it is interesting if you just eyeball these reviews that, hey, like Snowflake is actually got some traction here. I don't have a deep background in server management, so I'm going to be careful on how technical I talk about things. But I will say that generally speaking, if you look at the reviews like we have here, there does seem to be a takeaway that Snowflake can hang with the big boys in their similar services. I highlighted the market segments across the board there, and very interesting to me was how Google BigQuery and Snowflake are actually competing more on the enterprise side, whereas AWS and Microsoft were kind of with smaller companies. Enterprise is where the big money is, so I thought that that was a strong signal that Snowflake is not really starting with the basement operations and growing from there. They're targeting right at the top at enterprise business, and that's where the big money is. All right, this is another review on medium.com, the publisher's 2359 Media, and this person does a good job. You can see how they highlight the languages that Snowflake can work in, and you see the difference right off the bat. Google has more than AWS, but Snowflake actually takes things a different level. That obviously is going to expand your use case from an IT perspective. So I would say that that's an encouraging sign. I highlighted a couple things below as 2359 kind of got to their bottom line on this review. Redshift, BigQuery, and Snowflake are similar in that they provide the scale and cost savings of a cloud solution. Then in the box there, if you have very large data but a spiky workload, running lots of queries occasionally with high idle time, BigQuery would probably be cheaper and easier for you. So that's the Google product. If you have a steadier, more continuous usage pattern when it comes to queries and the data you're working with, it may be more cost effective to go with Snowflake since you'll be able to cram more queries into the hours you're paying for. Or if you have system engineers to tune the infrastructure according to your needs, Redshift might just give you the flexibility to do so. So one of the things that I learned as going through these review is Snowflake has sort of a unique pricing model in that it's almost hourly based, whereas Google BigQuery and some of the others do it more by how much data is exchanged or how many queries you actually put into a database. So they're coming at it from a different angle, and as the review stated there, you have a couple different options depending on who you are. This is important because I don't want anyone to think that Snowflake is this brand new solve-it-all problem that every single company in America and beyond is going to buy into. No, it will help some companies, and it has done well in the beginning, and there is a chance that they sort of roll into a world where they dominate that native language, so to speak. But as of right now, there's plenty of choices on the market for enterprise firms to choose from. It's basically the difference between inventing a car, whereas in this world, you're actually talking about brands of cars. So maybe Snowflake's the Tesla and Google is the Toyota. It doesn't really matter. You get the point. People will be attracted to certain brands for certain reasons. All right, this chart here is from GigaOM. I hope I'm saying that right, a website that reviews these type of technical services. And this took me a second to even process in my brain, but the short version here is the closer to the middle, the better. And you can see, surprisingly, that you have in the yellow box, you have Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Snowflake all pretty close together. The way they're breaking it up is they have Snowflake leaning harder to being your platform or your environment for these type of services, whereas Google, BigQuery, and AWS are more valuable from a feature standpoint. But the most impressive part is where Snowflake sits with these big boys on this chart this early in their existence. All right, last review. This one comes from TrustRadius. TrustRadius is a pretty broad website, so I'd take some of this with a grain of salt, but it's just interesting because they do go out and kind of poll opinion across the internet. And in this world, again, Snowflake hanging pretty well. They got 72 reviews at a 9.2 score versus Redshift was 8.1 on 140 reviews. And you see Google at 8.6 on 100 reviews. All right, so the bottom line here as investors, it's important to know that Snow does compete with Google, Amazon, Microsoft, but not in the gigantic cloud contracts where you're powering entire corporations. They offer a data sharing and analytical platform that sits within your cloud architecture. So it's more or less a feature within the cloud as opposed to holding every single thing that, let's say, Procter & Gamble does in the cloud, right? You're likely still going to need your AWSs and your Google and your Microsoft to really function from an IT perspective, but Snowflake helps you read into those functions and potentially share your data securely with other people and applications. So while Snow does have a great early track record of plus 100% sales and projected plus 100% sales next year, they've got a long way to go before the big guys get frightened. And you have to be curious as to how AWS and Google, they seem to be at the most risk of Snowflake stealing some of their revenue. You have to wonder how they'll respond to this. They both already have these capabilities to offer within their environment. It's just Snowflake's flexibility and ability to tie in multiple data streams in different languages. That's the kind of thing that is attractive to the developers. Can Google and Amazon just shift and make their stuff a little bit more logical for those use cases? I will say that I was super impressed to see Snowflake's name mentioned with Google BigQuery, Amazon Redshift, and Microsoft Azure. I used Cloudera as a reference earlier in this from a stock price perspective, and they're nowhere near the reviews and ratings that Snowflake was getting, hanging right with the big boys. At the end of the day, though, there's really only three ways to look at this one if you're just a normal retail investor like me. You kind of have the swing trade where you jump in of what you think is going to be the low point, and then you're hoping that it goes up. So, it dropped 13% from yesterday. Let's say the price drops to 150 tomorrow. Do you want to get in merely on momentum and volatility and try to get in and make a couple bucks that way? The second, more conservative long-term way would be the old buy and forget about it. Get yourself 10, 20, 100 shares, depending on the size of your portfolio. Throw it in a corner because you are convinced that this is going to be a high growth stock going forward. and forget about it. Wake up in 10 years and maybe you're a millionaire. And of course, the last option, which I know very little about, is to play the options game. Again, you're banking on volatility and momentum to carry you through this. Not an easy bet, and I would argue that there is safer plays with more obvious upside out in the market today. All right, guys, hope this Snowflake IPO review kind of helped you a little bit. I spent a lot of time researching it just so I could wrap my mind around the whole thing. Please give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter, link in the description. Get your free stock analysis guide. We'll see you on the next video.